back to another episode here in the cozy kitchen. It's cold outside, even here in Southern California. We're all bundled up. We come home. What do we want? A nice, warm bowl of soup. Today we are making my roasted cauliflower and potato soup. Today's recipe is extra special because it's vegetarian and could even be vegan. In this video today, we're going to be making the vegetarian version of this soup, but I will explain and share with you how to make the vegan version as well. So if you want to do that, you can do that. Before we get into today's recipe, I just want to remind you to subscribe to my channel if you're not already subscribed and like this video. But if soup is not your thing, check out some of my other videos, try one of the recipes out for yourself. Happy to answer any questions you have. But without further ado, just to give you an idea of what is going on right now in my kitchen, my oven has been preheating. It is at 425 degrees. It's ready to go. I have about 4 cups of cauliflower florets. So I buy the packaged cauliflower florets. That way it saves me from the mess. You can also buy a head of cauliflower, chop it yourself, go through all that. You're welcome to do that. I'm working in a small space here. It's just easier for me to just buy the florets that are already here. Sometimes they're a little big, so you want to make sure that the florets are bite-sized or smaller. For this recipe today, we're also going to be using baby Dutch potatoes. I have 1.5 pounds of baby Dutch potatoes. We're just going to slice them up into quarters, season them, and then put them on that same tray with the cauliflower, get that tray in the oven, and get the vegetables roasting together. So my oven is ready to go, but while your oven continues to heat up, let's get our baby Dutch potatoes and slice those up into quarters. We're going to leave the potato skins on the potatoes when we roast them and even put them into the soup. My potatoes are now chopped. My cauliflower is ready to go. The next thing we're going to do is just season the potatoes with a pinch of kosher salt, pinch of black pepper, a little bit of olive oil, and then 1 teaspoon of rosemary. Mix that all together and then put the potatoes on an oven-safe tray. We're going to do the same thing for the cauliflower florets. All we're going to do is hit them with a pinch of kosher salt, pinch of black pepper, a little bit of olive oil, mix those together and put them on that same sheet tray. So make sure you have a nice large sheet tray that we can put those on before we take them out and add them into our pot. I have my cauliflower, my potatoes ready to go in the oven. They're going to go in the oven at 425 degrees for 25 minutes. Now that my potatoes and cauliflower are both in the oven, the next thing that we're going to work on is the base for our soup. The base of our soup is going to be the trinity of carrot, celery, and onion, which I have here. You're going to need 2 medium-sized carrots, 1 medium sweet onion, and 3 sticks of celery. You're also going to need a large pot for this recipe. So make sure you have a nice deep pot, whatever pot that you have that's the deepest. Go grab it. We're going to put this on our stove and have it ready while we chop up our vegetables. We're just going to chop up the carrot, celery, and onion into little bite-sized pieces and then throw them into our large pot. Right before you finish chopping your vegetables, you want to make sure you have that pot on your stove. You want to make sure that there's enough olive oil in that pot that covers the entire base of that pot. Bring that heat to medium high, and then once that oil becomes fragrant over the heat, we're going to throw in our vegetables and get those sauteing. My vegetables are chopped, they're ready to go. My pot has been on medium-high heat. Now that that oil is nice and fragrant and that pot is warm, we're going to throw our vegetables in. Once you throw those vegetables into the olive oil, make sure you hit them with just a pinch of kosher salt, hint of black pepper, and then toss them with the spoon, making sure to coat all the vegetables. While those vegetables continue to saute, now is the time to get 2 nice-sized garlic cloves. We're just going to slice these up and throw them into our vegetables after they've been sauteing for a few minutes. Now that our vegetables are over the heat and starting to soften and our garlic is chopped, next thing we can do is get our seasonings for the soup. We're going to be using 1 teaspoon of smoked paprika, a 1/2 teaspoon of chili powder, a 1/4 teaspoon of curry powder, and a 1/2 teaspoon of dried thyme. You want to just make sure that you have all those seasonings ready and off to the side, measured out and good to go. My vegetables are starting to soften. Into the pot, I'm going to throw in my 2 garlic cloves in with the carrots, the celery, and the onions. My garlic is now sauteing with those vegetables. Next thing we're going to add in are our seasonings. So go get your chili powder, your paprika, your curry powder, and your dried thyme. We're about to throw all those in with the vegetables. Give that all a little toss with our spoon before we add in our roasted cauliflower and our potatoes. My cauliflower and potatoes just came out of the oven. They're still steaming hot. We're just going to set these aside. Once your cauliflower and potatoes come out of the oven, leave your oven on at 425 degrees. I'm going to be throwing in 1 tablespoon of unsalted butter. If you are vegan or you want to make this recipe vegan, you can opt out of adding the butter or you can substitute it for a vegan butter. I'm about to throw in 1 tablespoon of unsalted butter. Toss that in with the vegetables. Once that butter is melted, we're then going to add in our roasted potatoes and our roasted cauliflower into that pot with all the vegetables. Give that a nice toss before we add in our low sodium vegetable broth and our unsweetened milk. Today I'm going to be using unflavored, unsweetened oat milk. You're welcome to use regular milk or any milk that you have. Just make sure that that milk is unflavored and unsweetened. Into that pot with those vegetables, we're going to add 3 cups of low sodium vegetable broth and 1 cup of unsweetened milk. You can use regular milk if you want to use regular milk, as long as it's unsweetened, unflavored milk. We have raised that heat to high, and then once it comes to a boil, we're then going to drop the heat down to a simmer and put the lid onto the pot. That soup is going to stay at a simmer with that pot on for about 20 minutes. In the meantime, now is the perfect time to work on our topping for the soup. We're actually going to finish off this soup today with some roasted garbanzo beans. These are completely optional, but something that I like as a finishing touch, just to add some textural balance to the dish. We're going to roast the garbanzo beans in our oven. I have one 15-ounce can of garbanzo beans here. One easy trick to make sure that your garbanzo beans get a nice crispiness to them is just to lay them flat on a paper towel. We're then just going to use another towel just to pat them dry and take away any of that excess moisture. Once we've dried the garbanzo beans, we're then just going to hit them with a pinch of kosher salt, a half a teaspoon of garlic powder, and a half a teaspoon of dried thyme. Toss that in some olive oil and put that in the oven 425 degrees for about 18 to 20 minutes or until they start to become golden brown. My soup has been simmering now for just over 25 minutes. I'm going to now work with my immersion blender that I have, and I'm going to slowly work that immersion blender into the soup, making sure that those vegetables start to break up and we create a nice creaminess to this soup. We're going to blend about 80% or so of the soup so that it's nice and smooth, rich, and creamy. We want to keep some of the integrity of the vegetables, but for the most part, we want to blend this soup up. So you can either use a blender, or I'm going to be using an immersion blender. Once that soup is blended, it's going to turn a nice golden yellow color. The finishing touch to the soup, we're going to add 1 tablespoon of all-purpose flour and the juice of 1 lemon. We're going to raise that heat to high and bring the soup back to a bubble before we turn the heat off and allow that soup to just sit for a few minutes while we wait for our garbanzo beans to come out of the oven. My garbanzo beans have been in the oven now for about 18 minutes. We're just going to cover them with a generous portion of Pecorino Romano cheese. Again, if you're not going to be using cheese, you can always mix them with some nutritional yeast to give them that same cheesy flavor and keep this recipe vegan. I just hit my garbanzo beans with the Pecorino Romano cheese. They're about to go back in the oven at 425 degrees for about 5 more minutes before we take them out and finish them on top of our soup. While we wait for that cheese to melt on those garbanzo beans, one final thing that you'll need is just 1 lemon. After we plate our soup and top them with those roasted garbanzo beans, we're then just going to use a little bit of lemon zest just to brighten everything up and bring it all together before we serve it. My garbanzo beans have just come out of the oven. The Pecorino Romano cheese has melted now onto the garbanzo beans, making them almost like a crispy, cheesy crouton. We're going to put these roasted garbanzo beans right on top of our soup once we plate it. Make sure you have that lemon handy. We're going to zest a little bit of the lemon right on top of the soup before we eat it. Despite not using any cream, we have this nice, rich, thick, creamy soup ready to go. The seasonings to our vegetables add just a nice warmth to the entire soup, and it's honestly one of my favorite things to make this time of year and just have in the fridge. We're just going to top this soup with some of our roasted garbanzo beans, and then the final thing before we dive into our soup, you just want to get a lemon, and then we're just going to zest a little bit of lemon right on top. The lemon's just going to brighten everything up and bring the soup to life to a whole different level. Once we've topped off our soup with those garbanzo beans and we got a little bit of that lemon zest on there, the only thing left to do is to dive in and give it a taste. What I love about this soup in particular is that it's all vegetables. It's nice and healthy. All we did was add a mixture of seasonings to bring some life to this soup. It's rich, it's creamy, it's perfect for this time of year. It's going to make you feel nice and warm inside. I can't wait any longer. I'm about to dive in for myself. Thank you guys so much for checking out my page. Please remember to like this video if you like it. Also, be sure to subscribe to my channel. Check out some of my other videos. I will be back very soon with another recipe. In the meantime, go make some roasted cauliflower and potato soup. See you guys soon.